"Don't go, Jimin, please. I just realized I love you." The words tore through the narrow airport corridor like glass, sharp and too late, echoing off cold walls that smelled of disinfectant and rain-soaked coats. Jimin stopped walking, his fingers still wrapped around the handle of his suitcase, knuckles pale, breath caught somewhere between disbelief and exhaustion. Jungkook stood several steps behind him, chest heaving, hair damp with sweat and rain, eyes red in a way Jimin had never seen before, not on stage, not in practice rooms filled with mirrors and music, not even on nights when exhaustion broke them both. This was different. This was fear. For a long second, neither of them moved. The departure board above them flickered softly, flights leaving for places that promised distance and forgetting. Jimin turned slowly. His face was calm, almost painfully so, but his eyes betrayed him, dark, shining, wounded. "You can't say that now," he said quietly. His voice didn't shake. "That hurt more than if it had. Not when I'm already leaving." The memory of how they arrived here pressed in on them, heavy and unavoidable. Hours earlier, the city had been drowning in rain. Jimin had stood in the apartment doorway, coat already on, the faint scent of his familiar cologne mixing with the bitterness of cold air. Jungkook had been on the couch, guitar untouched beside him, pretending not to notice the packed suitcase near the door. "You don't have to do this," Jungkook had said then, not looking up, his voice carefully neutral. Cowardly, Jimin thought. "I do," Jimin replied, "because staying hurts more." That had finally made Jungkook look at him, and in that look was everything Jungkook never said, confusion, fear, an attachment he refused to name. But still, he hadn't stopped Jimin. Not with words, not with arms, not with the truth. Jimin had learned long ago how to smile through pain. It was a skill sharpened by years of practice, by loving someone who only ever loved him halfway. Jungkook's affection came in fragments, late-night talks, lingering touches that disappeared when noticed, jealousy disguised as concern, comfort given freely, but commitment always withheld. Jimin loved deeply, Jungkook loved cautiously, and that difference slowly carved a wound neither of them wanted to admit existed. At the airport now, the present wrapped itself around them again. The crowd flowed past, a blur of voices and footsteps, but the world felt reduced to the space between them. "You don't get to realize this when I'm already breaking," Jimin said, his fingers tightening on the suitcase handle. "I waited. I gave you time. I stayed quiet when it hurt because I thought maybe one day you'd choose me without being forced." Jungkook swallowed hard. He took a step closer, then another, as if afraid Jimin might vanish. "I was scared," he admitted. The confession tasted bitter. "Every time I felt something real, I panicked. I thought if I named it, I'd lose you. I didn't know silence would do the same." Jimin laughed softly, the sound fragile. "Love doesn't disappear when you say it out loud, Jungkook. It disappears when you don't." Something inside Jungkook cracked open then, a realization as sharp as pain. All the moments he had dismissed as temporary, all the times Jimin had chosen him quietly, patiently, lovingly, they rushed back with cruel clarity. "I love you," Jungkook said again, closer now, his voice raw. "Not as a habit, not as comfort. I love you because you're the first person who ever felt like home, and I was too afraid to admit I wanted to stay." Jimin closed his eyes. When he opened them, tears finally spilled, silent and unrestrained. "And what am I supposed to do with that now?" he whispered. "Turn around and pretend I didn't spend months teaching myself how to let you go." Jungkook reached out, stopping just short of touching him, respecting the distance he'd created. "Let me try," he said. "Let me be honest, even if it's messy, even if you don't forgive me yet. Just don't leave thinking you were never loved." The announcement for boarding echoed overhead. Time pressed in, impatient and unforgiving. Jimin looked at Jungkook for a long moment, really looked at him, the trembling hands, the naked fear, the boy who had always loved him in pieces and was finally offering the whole truth. Jimin exhaled shakily. "I don't know if love is enough anymore," he said, "but I know running without hearing the truth would haunt me." He let go of the suitcase handle. The sound it made hitting the floor was soft, almost anticlimactic, yet it felt monumental. Jungkook's breath hitched. He stepped forward, this time closing the distance, pulling Jimin into his arms. Jimin resisted for half a second, then melted, forehead pressing into Jungkook's shoulder as years of unspoken pain finally found somewhere to rest. "I'm not promising forever," Jimin murmured. "I'm promising today." Jungkook held him tighter, eyes closed, as if anchoring himself to the moment. "That's enough," he said. "I'll spend every day proving I deserve tomorrow." Around them, the airport kept moving. Flights kept leaving, but for the first time in a long while, neither of them felt left behind. Love hadn't arrived gently. It arrived late, desperate, trembling, but it arrived honestly. And for now, that honesty was enough to make Jimin stay. The morning after Jimin chose to stay did not feel like victory. It felt like standing in the center of a battlefield after the gunfire stopped, realizing the ground was still shaking. Jungkook woke first. Pale sunlight filtered through the curtains, cutting across Jimin's sleeping face. His lashes rested softly against his cheeks, his breathing slow but uneven, like someone who had cried too much the night before. Jungkook lay still, watching him, afraid that even moving might break whatever fragile thing they had rebuilt at the airport. He reached out, brushing his fingers against Jimin's wrist. Jimin's eyes opened immediately. There was no warmth in them yet, just caution. "You're still here," Jungkook said quietly. Jimin studied him for a long moment before answering. "You sound surprised." "I am," Jungkook admitted. "I thought maybe I'd wake up and realize it was just a panic." "It wasn't panic," Jimin said, sitting up slowly. "It was years of feelings exploding all at once." Silence stretched between them again, thicker now, heavier with the consequences of staying. "Loving me isn't going to be poetic," Jimin continued. "It's not airport confessions and dramatic rain scenes. It's answering calls when you're tired. It's choosing me when it's inconvenient. Can you actually do that?" Jungkook pushed himself up, leaning against the headboard. "You think I don't know that?" His voice sharpened. "I know I messed up. I know I let you stand alone for too long, but don't talk to me like I'm still that coward." Jimin's jaw tightened. "Then don't act like one." The words landed hard. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustration rising. "You think this is easy for me? I grew up learning to protect everything by staying silent. I thought if I didn't define us, no one could tear us apart. And instead you almost let me walk away," Jimin shot back, his voice cracking despite his effort to stay composed. "Do you know what it feels like to love someone who refuses to claim you?" Jungkook flinched. "I wasn't refusing to claim you," he said, softer now. "I was terrified of losing you." "You lost me anyway," Jimin whispered. "Last night was just you trying to catch what was already falling." That truth lingered in the room like smoke. Jungkook stood abruptly, packing toward the window. The city looked deceptively calm below, cars moving, people living lives untouched by their chaos. "You want honesty," Jungkook said, turning back sharply. "Fine. I hated how much power you had over me. I hated that one bad day from you could ruin mine. I hated that I couldn't imagine a future without you in it. That scared me." Jimin's eyes widened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. "So I told myself it was temporary, that we were just close, that it would pass," Jungkook continued. "But it didn't, it only got worse." "Worse," Jimin echoed, almost laughing through the hurt. "You mean deeper?" Jungkook stepped closer. "Yes, deeper, and I didn't know how to hold something that important without breaking it." "You don't get to treat love like it's fragile glass," Jimin replied. "It's not, it's resilient, but it needs to be chosen." The tension between them pulsed, no longer quiet but alive, crackling. Then Jimin's phone buzzed. Both of them froze. Jimin glanced at the screen. A name lit up that made Jungkook's stomach twist. "Are you going to answer?" Jungkook asked carefully. Jimin hesitated. "It's work." "That's not what I asked." Jimin met his gaze, defiance flashing. "You don't get to interrogate me, not after all the times I stood by while you ignored mine." Jungkook's jaw clenched. "I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking because I'm trying to understand where I stand. You stand here, Jimin said, gesturing between them. In this mess, that's where. He declined the call, but the tension didn't disappear. You think I didn't have other options? Jimin asked quietly. You think no one else noticed me, wanted me? Jungkook's breath hitched. Did you? That's not the point. It is to me. Jimin stepped closer until there was barely space between them. The point is that I stayed, every time. I chose you when you didn't choose me back. The air felt too thin. Are you choosing me now? Jungkook asked, his voice almost breaking. Jimin searched his face, not for charm, not for passion, but for sincerity. I'm choosing to try, he said, but if you retreat again, I won't chase you. That wasn't a threat, it was a boundary. Jungkook nodded slowly, absorbing it. Then don't run at the first sign of fear either, he replied. Talk to me, even if it's ugly. Jimin's expression softened slightly. It will be ugly. Then we'll survive ugly. For a moment, something steadier settled between them. Not fantasy, not perfection, just two flawed people deciding to stay in the discomfort instead of escaping it. But peace, as they were learning, never lasted long. Another knock echoed at the door. They both turned toward it. Jimin frowned. Are you expecting someone? No. The knock came again, louder this time. Jungkook walked toward the door, heart pounding for reasons he couldn't explain. When he opened it, a familiar face stood there, someone from their past. Neither of them had fully escaped. Jimin went pale behind him. The past had just arrived, uninvited, and it was about to test whether their fragile confession was strong enough to survive reality. Jungkook didn't move aside. The hallway light framed the figure standing at the door, sharp and deliberate, like a memory that refused to blur with time. Taehyung's expression was calm, but his eyes carried something heavier, something unresolved. Are you going to invite me in? Taehyung asked evenly, or are we doing this in the hallway? Jimin's breath faltered behind Jungkook. You shouldn't be here. Taehyung's gaze shifted past Jungkook, landing directly on Jimin. I could say the same about you. I thought you were on a plane by now. Jungkook stiffened. What does that mean? Jimin's silence was answer enough. Taehyung stepped forward without waiting for permission. Jungkook instinctively blocked him, a flash of protectiveness igniting in his chest. Move, Taehyung said quietly. No, Jungkook replied just as softly, but there was steel in it. You don't get to walk in here like you own unfinished business. Taehyung let out a dry laugh. Unfinished, that's an interesting word. Jimin finally spoke, voice strained. Taehyung, don't. Don't what? Taehyung shot back, eyes flicking between them. Don't tell him the truth, or don't remind you of it. The air turned volatile. Jungkook looked at Jimin, confusion hardening into suspicion. What truth? Jimin's throat worked as if the words were shards of glass. I was going to stay with him after the flight. The silence that followed was suffocating. You what? Jungkook's voice dropped dangerously low. It wasn't like that, Jimin rushed out. I just needed somewhere to go, somewhere that didn't feel like you. Taehyung crossed his arms, watching. You make it sound so cold. Stop, Jimin snapped, a crack in his composure finally showing. This isn't about you. It became about me when you called me at 3 in the morning, crying, Taehyung replied sharply. When you said you were tired of loving someone who wouldn't fight for you. Jungkook felt something twist violently inside him. You told him that, he demanded, turning to Jimin. I didn't know you were going to chase me, Jimin fired back. You never did before. Taehyung's voice cut through them, and now he does, convenient. Jungkook's eyes darkened. You think this is convenient? I think it's dramatic, Taehyung answered coolly. You wait until he's leaving to suddenly discover love. That's not romantic, that's fear of losing control. The accusation landed hard. Jungkook stepped forward, anger finally surfacing. You don't know anything about what I feel. I know what I saw, Taehyung said. Months of him shrinking himself so you wouldn't feel threatened, smiling through things that broke him. You don't get to rewrite that overnight. Jimin closed his eyes briefly, overwhelmed. I'm still here, Jimin said quietly. Both of you are talking about me like I'm not standing in the room. Taehyung looked at him then, and the sharpness softened. You deserve certainty, he said, not desperation. Jungkook laughed bitterly. And what are you offering? Stability, is that it? I'm offering honesty. Taehyung replied, something you struggled with. The tension snapped. Jungkook shoved him back a step. You don't get to judge me in my own place. Taehyung steadied himself, unfazed. Then prove me wrong, prove that this isn't just panic because someone else was ready to catch him. Jimin stepped between them, palms pressing against Jungkook's chest. Stop it, both of you. Jungkook's breathing was uneven, eyes blazing, not just with jealousy, but with humiliation. Did you? He couldn't finish the question. No, Jimin answered immediately. Nothing happened, but it could have. That's the part you need to understand. Those words were honest, brutal, necessary. Jungkook's anger faltered, replaced by something far more vulnerable. Would you have been happier? Jimin didn't answer right away. That hesitation cut deeper than anything else. I don't know, Jimin admitted finally. Maybe calmer, maybe less afraid of being unwanted. Taehyung looked away, jaw tight. Jungkook's voice broke. I never didn't want you. You just didn't show it, Jimin replied, tears gathering again. And sometimes that's the same thing. The room felt too small for the weight of their history. Taehyung exhaled slowly. I didn't come here to steal him, he said. I came because I needed to know if he was choosing you or settling because he's afraid of change. Jimin straightened. I'm not settling. Then look at him, Taehyung challenged gently. Not the version you hoped he'd become, the one standing in front of you. Jimin did. Jungkook stood there raw and unguarded, pride stripped away, fear visible in every line of his body. Not perfect, not suddenly healed, but trying. I'm not asking you to forget the past, Jungkook said hoarsely. I'm asking you to let me build something better than it. And if you fail, Taehyung pressed. Then I'll accept losing him, Jungkook answered, eyes never leaving Jimin. But I won't lose him because I was too scared to fight. The sincerity in his voice shifted something. Jimin stepped back, needing space to think. The two people who had seen him at his weakest stood in front of him, both offering different versions of safety. One steady, one fiery. One predictable, one terrifying. I don't want safe if it means empty, Jimin said finally, and I don't want passion if it means pain. He turned to Jungkook. Can you love me without making me prove I'm worth it every day? Jungkook swallowed. Yes. Can you handle it when I call you out? Jimin continued. Yes. Can you stand next to me publicly if you have to, even if it complicates everything? A flicker of hesitation crossed Jungkook's face, but only for a second. Yes. Taehyung watched quietly, then nodded once. Then this isn't my place anymore, he said softly. He looked at Jimin, and for the first time there was no challenge in his gaze, only care. If he hurts you again, don't disappear alone. Jimin's lips trembled slightly. I won't. Taehyung left without another word. The door closed with a quiet click, but the echo of what almost happened lingered heavily. Jungkook leaned against the wall, exhaling shakily. I hate that you had someone else ready to catch you. Jimin managed a faint, sad smile. I hate that I needed someone else to feel seen. They stood there in the aftermath, bruised but honest. Are we strong enough for this? Jungkook asked. Jimin walked toward him slowly, resting his forehead against Jungkook's chest. I don't know, he whispered, but I'm tired of loving you halfway. The scandal broke 3 days later. Jimin knew something was wrong the second his manager's name flashed across his phone screen at 6 in the morning. Jungkook was still asleep beside him, one arm loosely draped over Jimin's waist, breathing slow and steady in a way that felt almost cruelly peaceful. "Hello," Jimin answered, already sitting up. "Tell me it's not true," his manager said without greeting. Jimin's stomach dropped. "Tell you what isn't true." There was a pause, then a sharp inhale. "There are photos, you and Jungkook, at the airport, at the apartment complex. Someone caught the moment in the hallway. It's everywhere." The blood drained from Jimin's face. "Everywhere," he repeated quietly. "Trending, forums, news sites. The captions are worse than the photos." Jimin's hand trembled as he pulled up his phone. He didn't have to search. The images were already flooding his notifications. Blurry but unmistakable, Jungkook running, Jimin turning, the suitcase falling, the embrace. And the headline that burned more than the rest: "Secret relationship exposed, betrayal within the industry." Jungkook stirred beside him. "What is it?" he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. Jimin couldn't speak. Jungkook sat up when he saw Jimin's expression. "Hey, what happened?" Jimin turned the screen toward him. Jungkook blinked once, twice, then his jaw clenched so hard it looked painful. "How did they?" "It doesn't matter how," Jimin cut in. "It happened." Jungkook grabbed his own phone. His expression shifted from shock to anger in seconds. "They're twisting it. They're making it sound like we betrayed people. They're saying I was involved with someone else," Jimin whispered, "that I was playing both sides." Jungkook looked up sharply. "That's not true." "I know it's not true," Jimin snapped, his composure cracking, "but it doesn't matter what's true." The phone buzzed again, and again, and again. Jungkook threw his device onto the bed. "Let them talk." "It's not that simple," Jimin's voice rose. "You think this only affects us. It affects the team, the company, everyone." "So what do you want to do?" Jungkook shot back. "Pretend it's fake, say we were rehearsing a scene." Jimin stood abruptly, packing. "I don't know." The room felt smaller than ever. Jungkook stood too, grabbing Jimin's wrist gently. "Look at me." Jimin tried to pull away. "Not now." "Look at me," Jungkook repeated, firmer this time. Jimin met his eyes. "Are you ashamed?" Jungkook asked quietly. The question hit like a slap. "What?" Jimin whispered. "Are you ashamed of us?" Jimin's face crumpled, hurt flashing across it. "How could you even ask that?" "Because you look terrified," Jungkook said, his voice shaking despite his effort to stay steady. "And I need to know if you're scared of the scandal or of being seen with me." Jimin pushed him back. "I am scared of losing everything I worked for. And I'm scared of losing you because of it." Their words collided in the air like sparks. "You think I don't know what this costs," Jungkook continued. "You think I'm not risking the same thing." "You're not the one they're painting as manipulative," Jimin snapped. "You're not the one they're accusing of using someone else as a backup." Jungkook froze. "Is that what you think?" "No," Jimin shouted, "but that's what they're saying." Silence crashed down. Jungkook stepped back slowly. "So what? You're going to distance yourself from me to protect your image?" Jimin's chest tightened. "Don't make it sound like that." "Then what does it sound like?" Jungkook demanded. "Because to me, it sounds like you're already calculating how to survive this without me." Jimin's breathing grew uneven. "You think this is about survival? It's about consequences. We can't just live in a bubble and pretend the world doesn't exist." Jungkook laughed bitterly. "So we hide again." "I didn't say that." "You don't have to." Jimin stepped closer, eyes blazing. "Stop twisting my words." "Then say it clearly," Jungkook fired back. "Say you're willing to stand next to me even if this gets worse." Jimin opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The hesitation was small, almost invisible. But Jungkook saw it. And it shattered something. "I knew it," he whispered. "That's not fair," Jimin said quickly. "I just need time to think." "Time?" Jungkook's voice cracked. "We don't have time, it's already out there." The phone buzzed again, this time Jungkook's manager. He didn't answer. Jimin's shoulders slumped. This is exactly what I was afraid of. What? That loving you would feel like standing on a fault line. Jungkook stared at him. Then why did you stay? Because I love you, Jimin said fiercely, but love doesn't erase reality. Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating off him. So what's the plan, Jimin? Tell me, do we deny it? Do we go silent? Or do we tell the truth and let everything burn? Jimin closed his eyes. He imagined the headlines, the backlash, the whispers, the disappointment, the possible exile from everything he had built. Then he imagined waking up without Jungkook beside him. The thought hurt more. I don't want to hide, Jimin said finally, voice trembling but firm. But I don't want this to destroy everyone around us either. Jungkook's anger softened into something more fragile. We can't control what people do. But we can control what we say. A heavy pause. Jungkook stepped closer again, cupping Jimin's face gently. If we speak together. Jimin nodded slowly, together. Another knock at the door interrupted them, louder and more urgent than before. Jungkook opened it, this time to find both of their managers standing there, faces grim, tension practically vibrating in the air. We need to talk, one of them said sharply. The living room became a battlefield within minutes. Voices overlapped. Words like reputation, contract clauses, image management, temporary separation filled the space. Temporary, Jungkook repeated dangerously. You want us to separate publicly. It's the safest move, his manager insisted. Deny the romantic angle, say you're close friends. Emotions ran high. That's not a lie, Jimin's manager added quickly. It gives you room to breathe. Jungkook looked at Jimin, and what do you think? Jimin hesitated again. Jungkook's heart dropped. This isn't just about us, Jimin said quietly. If denying it protects everyone. It also protects you from claiming me, Jungkook cut in. That's not fair, Jimin said, anger flaring. You don't get to turn this into a loyalty test. And you don't get to treat our love like a PR crisis. The room went silent. The managers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jimin's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't let them fall. You think I don't want to scream it from the rooftops? I do, but I can't ignore the fallout. Jungkook stepped back, chest rising and falling sharply. I asked you one thing, if you could stand next to me. And I am standing next to you, Jimin shouted. Then prove it, Jungkook said, voice breaking. Not privately, publicly. The ultimatum hung between them, electric and dangerous. Jimin looked at the faces around him, the pressure, the fear, the consequences. Then he looked at Jungkook. For a moment, everything else blurred. I won't deny you, Jimin said slowly. The managers immediately protested. This is reckless. You'll regret this. Jimin raised his voice, stronger now. I said I won't deny him. The room fell quiet. Jungkook's eyes widened slightly. I'm not ready to label everything, Jimin continued, heart pounding, but I won't pretend that what happened at the airport was nothing. I won't reduce it to a misunderstanding. Jungkook stepped closer, emotion flooding his face. Jimin. If we fall, Jimin whispered, looking only at him, we fall honestly. The decision was made. The managers weren't happy. The consequences were still looming like a storm about to break. But for the first time since the photos surfaced, Jungkook felt something steadier than fear. He reached for Jimin's hand in front of everyone. And Jimin didn't pull away. The press conference was scheduled for that evening. No time to breathe, no time to prepare a perfect script, just enough time for doubt to grow claws. By late afternoon, the building was surrounded. Cameras lined the entrance like a wall of blinking eyes. Microphones crowded the stage prepared inside the media hall. The air felt electric, tense, like a storm waiting to strike. Backstage, Jimin stood in front of the mirror, staring at his reflection as if trying to recognize the person about to walk into public fire. His stylist's hands hovered near his jacket, but stopped when she saw the look in his eyes. "You don't have to look so calm," she murmured gently. "It's okay to look human." Jimin gave a faint smile. "That's what I'm afraid of." Across the room, Jungkook was packing. His jaw was tight, fingers flexing as if preparing for a fight. Every few seconds, he glanced at Jimin like he was afraid he might disappear again. "You can still back out," Jungkook said suddenly. Jimin turned. "You want me to?" "No," Jungkook shook his head immediately. I don't want you to feel forced." Jimin walked toward him slowly. "I'm not doing this because you asked me to." "Then why?" "Because I'm tired of loving you in whispers." The words hit Jungkook straight in the chest. A staff member approached cautiously. 5 minutes. The door to the stage felt heavier than steel. As they stepped out together, the noise exploded. Flashbulbs burst like lightning. Shouted questions overlapped in chaotic waves. "Are you in a relationship? Was there overlap with previous partners? Is this a publicity stunt? Did the company try to silence you?" Jungkook instinctively moved slightly in front of Jimin, shielding him from the chaos, but Jimin reached out and grabbed his hand instead, stepping forward. The murmurs intensified at the sight of their hands intertwined. They sat. The microphones waited. Jungkook leaned toward his mic first. His voice, when it came, was steady but edged with steel. "The photos you've seen are real." A ripple ran through the room. "There was no betrayal," he continued. "No manipulation, just two people who were afraid to admit what they felt." The questions came sharper now. "Are you confirming a romantic relationship?" Jimin leaned toward his microphone. He could feel his pulse in his throat. "We're confirming that what you saw wasn't fake." "That's not an answer," a reporter pressed. "It is," Jimin replied calmly. "We care about each other deeply. We're figuring out what that means." "Is this damaging your group's image?" Jungkook's eyes darkened. Loving someone shouldn't be considered damage. The room